the room.
Now,
There was no way.
Was it still in the
Yes, sir.
holster, or was the gun out of the holster across the room?
It was still in the holster. It was in the holster, and the holster had a it was locked into place, so it had the little latch going over the, what do you call it, to hold it into the holster so it wouldn't fall out. It had a little thingy.
Now, is that maybe they were going to abduct you, or maybe they did abduct you and return you, but maybe they were kind of upset that you had that gun there, and that maybe your thoughts of grabbing that gun and maybe using it, they took and transported the gun over to the other side of your room.
Yeah, I mean, it had to have been. And now that's happened a lot in my life in these situations. So it's like there's either two things that are happening. They're doing it, or for some reason, in some weird way, as soon as I think of a motion or I think of this thing goes flying, because it's happened a lot in my life. So either I'm doing it or they're doing it. In that case, I really thought they were doing it, because as soon as I thought, they're here again, grab your gun. As soon as I said grab your gun in my head, even though I was under paralysis and I couldn't do it, dud, 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 dud. I mean, the gun went flying across the room. It was, and I'll tell you what, like, I became extremely sensitive. I didn't really break into this with the illness, childhood illness, and then through these abductions. There's people that run around this world, calling themselves empaths and stuff like that. And the people that run around advertising themselves as empaths are usually not, because it's nothing to brag about. It sucks, man. You can't be around troubled people. You get sick. I mean, it's terrible. Literally, I get physically sick being around volatile people, unless I can get away from them. But it's nothing to brag about. And so I'm extremely sensitive to emotions, to presences and stuff like that. And so I can feel these things in the room. I know they're there, and I feel their intentions aren't great sometimes, and so, but yeah, it's just that as soon as I thought, like, grab your gun, and then that happens. Now, it's weird, because I'll tell you, after that night, and I had forgotten about this because, like I said, they make you forget certain things. It wasn't until the last time I told this story was I remembered what actually happened later that night. Was I thought I went to bed and woke up the next morning, but I actually ended up going to sleep. I woke up, went to the bathroom. A white flash of light hit me in the face. Now, in our master bath, there's a window behind the toilet, but it wasn't even from the window. It was to the right of me, where my shower was. This bright white flash of light hit me right in the face, and I woke up the next day in my bed. I don't know what happened after that. And another thing that happened, and I don't want to jump around too much, but I gotta share this, because this was weird. I got up one night. This is all in the same kind of time period. I got up. I needed to use the bathroom. It was like 2:36 a.m. in the morning, and I don't turn on the bathroom. I go into the master bathroom off our master bedroom. I don't turn on the light or the fan, because I don't want to wake up my wife. She wakes up a little bit earlier than I do, and she works really hard and stuff. So I keep the light and the fan off, and I close the door. It's a full moon outside. It's pitch dark in the bathroom, but it's a full moon outside. I can see my entire backyard. I can see my chicken coop. I can see everything perfectly. And I'm going pee or whatever, and then I notice something move, and I look down just behind my chicken coop, just over the embankment a little bit. There's this thing staring at me, and it's kind of crouched down a little bit, like if you bent at the knees a little bit, and it's looking up at the window. It shouldn't be able to see me. I've gone down there at night and looked up. There's no way it should have been able to see me, the type of screen that I have and whatnot, but it was staring at me right in my eyes. And it was looking left to right the same way those little grays did in San Antonio, looking back at that big thing. kind of looking for direction. This thing had the same demeanor. It was looking left and right. It was looking for direction. But it also made me feel like there was other ones out there. There was something else out there with it. It wasn't alone. And it was staring up at me, and it saw me, and I looked at it I watched it for a while. Now, what was weird about this was it wasn't what I was used to looking at. It wasn't the little grays. This thing was like, I would have to put it between 5 and 6 foot tall. It had, it didn't have the almond-shaped eyes. It had big black eyes. It had a bulbous head. But here's the kicker, and this is what I never would have talked about, before. But like I said, I'm gonna say it the way it is, and I don't exaggerate. I just say it the way how it happened. The thing had oranges type skin. It wasn't like, it wasn't green or gray. It was freaking like orange type skin, and it had big black eyes. And I drew a picture of it. I should have sent that to you before we talked about this, but I recently drew a picture of it, but it had like a black suit on that was form fitting, but I really couldn't see much of it because of the landscape. So it just, I could see very little of that, but I saw the head clearly. I saw it move back and forth, look back and forth to the left and the right, and look back up at me, left and right, look back up at me. It looked anxious. It looked nervous. It looked very nervous about something, but it also, and I thought, you know what, let me go out there with my gun or my German Shepherd, and I'm like, you know what, it's going to be gone by the time we get out there. I know it is. And so I said, you know, I'm just going to go back to bed. I watched it for a while, but then I went back to bed. Now, my dog, German Shepherd, he was kenneled at the foot of our bed. So that was in our bedroom. I was in the master bath. He couldn't see out the window, and he had no idea what was going on. He was sleeping or whatever. My wife was sleeping. So in the morning, we get up, and here's the kicker. So we get up in the morning. We go out. First thing I do is let him out, right? He never goes down the embankment. He goes around our property, runs around the chicken coop, messes with the rooster or whatever, does his thing. But this morning, the first thing he did was run right down the embankment, right to the spot where I saw this thing standing, and he would not come off of that spot for 20 minutes. He was sniffing right there. I took a picture of him and everything, and he's very well, if I say, Hank, he'll come right up to me. He wouldn't. I had to walk down there. He still wouldn't come. He was so, like, just focused on whatever scent he had right there. He wouldn't come off of it, and he had never gone down that embankment at that point. And like I said, he was kenneled that night, so he wouldn't even have known. He wouldn't have been able to see that. So yeah.
It's scary.
There was another point to that story. But, yeah, very, very bizarre this thing was.
Now, I mean, you mentioned at one point not helicopters, but UFOs. How often do you see UFOs?
You know what? Constantly. But that's the other point I was going to make too. That morning, so we get up Hank comes back up, and sorry, I'm tired. That's why I keep forgetting stuff, because I've been, like I said, I'm self-employed, and I'm buried in my paranormal and UFO work, but I'm also buried with my other work too. So what happened then was, so we come up, we go back in the house, I make a coffee, I go out on my deck by myself to sip on my cup of coffee on my deck, overlooking my backyard, and here comes these black helicopters. Just, like probably, 6 hours or so, 5-6 hours after I saw this creature in my backyard. Here the black helicopters are again. The only other time is when I see when I talk about these weird things on popular shows. That's the only time we see the black helicopters. So, but yeah, as far as the UFOs above my house, they're constant. I mean, if I go up there, my father, when he lived with me, he passed away in April, but when he lived with me, he would sit out. He didn't sleep at night. He would sit out on the porch, and he would tell me, he's like, do you know how many goddamn UFOs you have above your house, right? Now, he wasn't well, so I just took it with a grain of salt, but I do know that they've been around. You know, I've seen these things a lot. Like you talked about the one that shined up your car when you were driving that one time. That happened to me one time in Antrim, New Hampshire. I was driving I had a second job, and the whole road lit up next, above around me. And I rolled down the window. I looked up, and there was this thing above me, and it was lighting up the whole area. And then it shot off over this. There was this rounded mountain off of Route 202 over there, and it shot off behind there. And then it came back, and it did the same thing again. And I showed up for work 2 hours late, and luckily I was the only one there, so it didn't matter. But when I got there, I was like, "This doesn't make sense. Like, this doesn't make sense. Well, it should only take me 10 minutes."
Yeah, I mean, there's always a case of lost time. In my situation there, I didn't have a watch, and I had no way to know if I lost time or not. But it is strange, when you see something like that. Peter Davenport is a regular on one of our shows on our network as a guest host, or, talking about reportings of UFOs and sightings across the country. He runs the UFO Reporting Center. And lately, the sightings have gone way up more than ever. But the funny thing is, it started here maybe about 5 months ago. He's started getting sightings of aliens seen out in the wooded areas. That's kind of strange.
That's what I saw at my house. So, yeah, exactly what I was just telling you. Yes, sir. And I see the same thing now with even just locally. Like, I get emails from around the world and stuff like that about certain things. But recently there was a sighting that I had in my trail cam. Well, after I saw that creature in my backyard, I set up trail cams to try to capture this thing. The night after I saw that creature, I set up the trail cams. I put it in front of some saplings because I set it up at dark. And I made a mistake, and so I captured just nothing but saplings moving all night long. So the next night, I set it in a different location, facing in the back of my property, up towards my house. Now, the same thing, saplings kind of set off my trail cam 1,019 times. But out of those 1,019 times, there was a series of lights that appeared at the left side of my house, right where I sleep, and it moved up next to exactly where I sleep, and then right above where I sleep. And then I noticed a year later that there was something else way up in the sky, and that's the photo I sent to you, and that was reported to me by locals that know what I do. They approach me at the gas station, the convenience stores, the wherever. They come up to me, and so up to 30 people that didn't even know each other, that were leaving their place of work, McDonald's, this other company, a retired police officer, and then another police officer, all saying they saw the same thing, describing the same thing that my trail cam caught above my property, only they saw it a lot closer, which was what they said looked massive. They all said massive, gigantic, this huge thing. The cop walking his dog at 2:30 something in the morning or whatever, was thinking to himself, "Man, the moon's awful bright tonight. It's so bright tonight, the moon." And then he looks up and says, "That's not the moon. That is not the moon. The moon's behind me. What is that? This gigantic, massive, white lit up thing in the sky." And he said, and he looked at it, and the light went out. He could still see the dark silhouette of it against the sky. Sparks fell from it. He said sparks, and the thing, it took off at a high rate of speed in the area of Hancock, New Hampshire. Now, what happened hours later was I was in Jaffrey where he saw this thing, and I was in Jaffrey that next day, hours after he saw this thing, probably, I don't know, 5 hours later, and 3 fighter jets flew treetop level at a high rate of speed, just, bending trees. They were so low. That doesn't happen around here. And they flew in the direction of Hancock. where they set off a countermeasure flare and scared the